yell. Hey guys, so a few of you on Instagram was asking me to do kind of like a mommyhood, motherhood Q&A, and I thought that was a really fun idea. So I asked you guys on Instagram to send me your questions, and you guys sent awesome questions as usual. So I got a ton of questions, I think like 50 something questions last time I checked. A lot of them were pretty much like the same 10 questions, just worded differently or just along the same lines. So I kind of just tweaked it myself and just kind of got like the gist of each question and kind of like formed my own question, if that makes sense. So the first question, and I think it's probably the #1 question that I got, was what has been your biggest struggle? I feel like I haven't been struggling like they struggle in the movies, if that makes any sense. Like, even now that we've had Harper, like Joe and I will watch a movie and there's like these new parents and they're like all frazzled and like wanting to like sell their baby to whoever like come. Like they're just wanting to like hand off their baby. They're just like, ah. And Joe and I like always look at each other like, we just haven't experienced that. Like I went into it thinking that that's how a lot of it was gonna be, of just like being really frazzled and being really tired. And we haven't had any of that. I think it's because I planned for the worst. I just went into it thinking like, just visualizing the absolute worst. And then Joe and I would talk about it, like how are we going to handle that situation or this situation? Like if I'm really exhausted, what are you gonna do to help me? Vice versa. Like we just went into it like totally expecting the worst. And it hasn't been anything near that. So I think the struggles that I've had haven't necessarily had anything to do with like actual like motherhood, of like taking care of Harper and the day-to-day. The things that I've been struggling with is just juggling the rest of the balls. Like I feel like I'm juggling like the motherhood ball is going round perfectly fine. Like I'm not dropping that ball. But then trying to like toss in, you know, being a wife, and toss in being a homemaker, and toss in being a friend and being a sister and being a daughter of God, and like all of those balls. Like I'm still trying to like juggle all of the balls together. And that has definitely been I would say my biggest struggle is just, I think the two biggest struggles: working while being a mom. I am a working stay-at-home mom. And then I would say the second biggest struggle has been juggling still being a wife. I think that when she first came, Joe and I were just like so infatuated with her and so in love that, and I think it's okay that this happened for the first, I mean, you obviously don't want it to continue to happen, but for the first, I would say like 2 months, like I think we were both just so focused on her that we weren't really focused on ourselves anymore. Like when Joe would walk into a room, he would like say hi to Harper, and then he would talk to Harper, and then he would say bye to Harper, and then he would leave. And so then I was just sitting there like, hello? And it wasn't a big deal or anything. It wasn't like something that we were like massively struggling with, but something that I kind of keep in mind with my marriage is to pay attention to the pennies. When you're walking around, if you see a penny on the ground, you're probably not gonna pick it up. But if you were to see $1 on the ground, you might be like, woohoo, I found $1. And you would like pay attention to that dollar because it's $1, whereas a penny seems small and insignificant and not really worth your time. But you have to remember that 100 pennies equal $1. And so if you let those pennies pile up, they do equal something of significance. And so in my marriage, I always try to remind myself to pay attention to the pennies, pay attention to the small things, and don't let them just go by the wayside, because eventually those pennies build up, and then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you have like this big problem in your marriage, and you're just like, how did we get here? How did this happen? So Joe and I just kind of sat down and had a chat of like how we can make sure that we stay connected, and how we can continue to nurture our relationship as husband and wife while also being parents. The next question is, are we going to adopt again? We're definitely going to adopt again. With most adoption agencies, you have to wait 1 year before you can start the adoption process again. And so as soon as Harper turns 1, we are going to start the process again, like be submitted and everything, but I think we're gonna start our paperwork and all of that stuff before she turns 1, so that way right when she turns 1 we can, you know, submit all of our stuff and be approved for adoption again. And then after that, it's just a waiting game. You don't know how long it's gonna take for you to be chosen by birth parents. It could happen right away, like it did the last time, or it could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take 3 years. And so that's why we really want to make sure that we get our paperwork in as soon as we can. But I would love for Harper to have a sibling that is close in age. But unfortunately with adoption, you can't really plan it out the way that you might be able to with pregnancies. So we're just gonna do what we can to make sure that we get our paperwork submitted and then put the rest in the Lord's hands. We would do that at least 1 more time, if not 2 more times. We want like 2 or 3 kids. We wanted like 4 kids and then it dwindled down to 3. And then now we're like, if we had 2 kids, that'd be fine. Just because again, adoption is expensive. It is time consuming. It's very emotionally taxing and exhausting, and especially if you're going through a long waiting period with one of your adoptions. And so I think 2 is definitely where we want to be at. 3 would be nice. What do you love most about being a mother, and what is the most rewarding? Before we had Harper and when we were like getting ready for her, everybody would ask me like, what are you most excited about? And I didn't really know how to answer because I'm just like, I'm just excited for it all. But now that I'm a mother, I can definitely say that the part that I love the most and the part that I get so excited about is just watching her go through her different milestones and seeing her learn. I feel like every single day she's learning something new, she's picking up a new skill. Sometimes I'll even look at her and just the way that she's looking at me, I can tell that like something new like turned on in her brain just because she's kind of looking at me differently. And just things like when she started to smile for the first time, when she giggled for the first time, when she started mimicking us, when she started babbling, just so many things. It just filled my heart with so much joy and excitement. And it's just so interesting to see them just learn so much. Like everything is new to them. Also seeing Joe with her, it just fills my heart with so much joy. Seeing the 2 of them interact, and I feel like both of their eyes light up when they see and talk to each other. Like Joe's eyes light up when he looks at her, and then when she sees him walk into a room, like she totally lights up, and it's just so adorable to watch. I've gotten this question in the past because we did a little video on it, and then a couple people asked something about the baby formula in this last Instagram post. So I thought that I would talk about it. So we did a video of us taste testing the Honest baby formula. I didn't realize that the Honest baby formula doesn't have DHA. Now DHA is something that some parents are 100% for and some parents are 100% against. So I'm not here to debate whether or not DHA is good or bad, but we definitely decided that we wanted to use a formula that had DHA in it. So Honest has a supplement that you can put into the formula, which is basically fish oil. So we bought the fish oil, and that stuff was rank. Oh my gosh, it made her formula smell like fish. It made her smell like fish. When she would burp, it smelled like fish. And then she also was puking on it, and she's not a puker. Like she really doesn't spit up very often at all. And a lot of the times when she does, it's kind of just like a wet burp. But while she was on the supplement, she spit up like 2 or 3 times, and the spit up was rank. Like it was like steamy fish. It was so gross. And so we definitely decided that that was not the formula for us. And then while she was in the hospital, she had a really hard time eating. And so they actually put her on the Similac sensitive formula. And so we just kind of kept her on that for like the first month, just like not really wanting to mess with anything. She was just going through so much that we didn't want to like, you know, upset things by trying to give her like new formulas and stuff. And then after that month period was when we tried the Honest with the supplement. That didn't work. And then I found out that Similac had an organic version of non-sensitive. So we tried the non-sensitive formula to see if it would, you know, mess with her stomach or anything, and it didn't. So we tried the Similac organic, and she really liked it, and so we didn't change it. The next question is, what has surprised me about being a mother? This may sound silly, but it has surprised me the amount of love that I feel for her. Before we had her, it's not that I didn't think that I was going to love her or anything like that. Like I knew I was going to love her. And I have honestly felt like I have loved my children since I was like 5 years old. And I've always heard people say that when you have kids, you feel like this crazy amount of love for them, and that it's something that you can't describe, you just have to go through it. And I always thought that I understood it already. Like, even though we didn't have kids yet, I was just like, no, I feel like I can imagine the amount of love that I would have for my kids, because I already felt so much love for them. But like, no, it's exactly what they say. It's this crazy, insane amount of love that you can't explain and you can't anticipate until you just go through it. The way that I would describe it is, I feel like before Harper, my love was like contained within my heart, if that makes sense. But then after I became a mother and after I saw Harper, it's just like your love just like has no bounds. Like, just the walls of your heart just completely shatter, and your love is just able to like fill the whole world. I feel like my love for Harper fills the whole world, and it fills the whole universe. Like, my love just like has no like boundaries. It's just the whole universe is filled with my love for Harper. And I had no idea, like, that blew me away, just the amount of love that I can feel. I would almost say that like it's been kind of surprising just like how natural it is, and how much, like, I knew that I would love it, but I thought that there were definitely gonna be like a lot of really hard days. And I just haven't experienced those yet. I know that I'm going to, but so far, 3 months in, it's been what I hoped it would be. I told myself that it might be harder and that it probably was going to be harder, but I kind of had like a dream in my head of like what it would be like. And luckily it's been pretty close to the dream and not the nightmare. What is something that nobody warned you about? So ever since I was like, not even kidding, like 12 years old, people told me all of the time, make sure when you have a baby, you rotate their head so that they don't get a flat head. Everybody told me that. That was like the #1 baby advice I feel like I got in my life, was make sure you rotate the baby's head so that they don't get a flat head. So literally right when we were in the hospital, day 1 with Harper, I was making sure that I was rotating her head. And then about 2 weeks into it, I would rotate her head and she would turn it immediately the other way. And I would try to turn her head right, and then she would just immediately turn it left. And I was just like, she like doesn't want to turn her head the right way anymore. So it's kind of just like, huh. And then like within like 3 or 4 days of that happening, she started to develop a little bit of a flat head on one spot of her head, because she was always sleeping on that one side. And newborns sleep for like 21 hours a day. So for 21 hours, she's like on this one spot of her head. So obviously it's gonna go a little bit flat. So I noticed it 1 week, and then by the next week, it was like, okay, her head's kind of like misshapen. So then we talked to her doctor about it, and she was like, yeah, it's not what you're doing at night, it's what you're doing during the day when you're playing with her and when you're holding her. And I was just like, huh? And she said that when you're holding her, you definitely want to make sure that you're switching arms, and that when you're feeding her, that you're switching arms and like having her look different directions, so that she builds the muscles on her neck at the same rate. And I didn't know that. And she did say that it's something that parents who formula feed have a harder time with, because when you're breastfeeding, you're automatically switching to both sides, whereas when you're formula bottle feeding, it's easy to just use one arm and just do the same position every single time. And that's what we did. Nobody told me like, okay, make sure when you have a baby that you switch arms that you feed them on so that they don't get a flat head, or make sure that you hold them on both of your shoulders so you don't get a flat head, or make sure that you're putting their toys on both sides so they don't get a flat head. Like, everybody just told me to make sure that you rotate the baby's head at night, which I did. As soon as our doctor told us it's because the muscles on one side of her neck were shorter than the other side, because she wasn't exercising that side of her neck as much, we started doing exercises with her. We saw a big improvement within the first week of doing exercises with her. And then I started to make sure that I fed her on both sides, that I held her on both shoulders, that I had toys in both different directions. And it's because Joe and I are both right-handed that it was easy for both of us to like always just do what was comfortable for us. So her doctor wasn't worried about it or anything like that. She's still really young. She said most babies, especially with sleeping on their back are gonna develop a little bit of a flat head. So she wasn't concerned at all, but it was just something as a mother that like I've heard all of my life, like make sure your baby doesn't get a flat head. And then like all of a sudden I had a baby that was like kind of struggling a little bit of a flat spot on their head. The next question is, what do you do on hard days? I think for me, I just make sure to have perspective on it. Like, babies cry. It's nothing against you. It's nothing you're really doing wrong. Whenever I have a hard day, whether it's being a mother or a wife or whatever kind of hard day I'm having, I always just go straight to just cutting it down to basics. Like I feel like in a day you have things that you need to get done, things that you want to get done, things that would be fun if you got done. And on my hard days, I just go straight down to basics and say, what do I need to get done today? And that is all I'm focusing on. So I just go down to basics, keep perspective, like, you know, just because today's a hard day doesn't mean tomorrow's gonna be a hard day. Kind of like the quote, it's a bad day, not a bad life. Like, it's gonna pass. She's a little bit cranky today. She's not really sleeping today. You know, you just gotta get through it. It's normal. Everybody goes through it. Tomorrow will be better. Don't get down on yourself. Don't think too much into it. Like in the very beginning, like her first week of life, she would wake up at 3 a.m. and be like wide awake. She would be wide awake from like 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. And I was just like kind of really stressed out about it because I just didn't know what to do. I'm just like, how do I fix this? And then I just reminded myself that like that was our only issue with her. She wasn't colicky, she wasn't crying all of the time, she was starting to eat really great. We were bonding with her. We had so many good things happening, but for some reason I chose to focus a lot of my energy on that. Why is she waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. wide awake? And then I was just like, Brittany, like stop focusing on that. You'll figure it out, it'll pass. It's totally normal. Like focus on the good things, not the bad things. So I think that that's something that helps me a lot in motherhood, but just also in life in general, is just focusing on the little things, having a heart full of gratitude. You know, she's having a day where she's really fussy and cranky. Like don't just get caught up in the fact that, she's so fussy and cranky today, but focus on the way that she smiled at me when I woke her up that morning, and the way that she grabbed onto my finger when I was feeding her, and the way that I got her to giggle, and how adorable she looks in her outfit, and just how grateful I am to be her mother. Like, just focus on those things. Don't get too caught up in the stressful parts of it. So yeah, my battery just started blinking, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I hope that this answered your guys' questions and that you enjoyed the video. So yeah, hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.